Well, hello everyone. Canadian Dissident here, and I'm back after a little bit of a break. But we got some very important news to cover today. Freedom Convoy 2022 finally makes it to the Parliament building in Ottawa. This is a protest that was started by truckers in Canada, but now has just been joined by all kinds of Canadian patriots. The goal at this point is to end the mandates once and for all. Some people are requesting that it shouldn't end until Justin Trudeau himself resigns. So we'll see what happens. But basically, this got started because Trudeau said that unvaccinated truckers can no longer cross the border. So basically, if you're a trucker, you're unvaccinated, you don't have a job anymore, you have no livelihood. And so finally, people have stood up and said, enough is enough. So we'll see what happens. Everyone is converging on Parliament today, so this story will be developing. But I kind of just want to cover it so far and a little bit on how it started. So let's just get right into it. So this was just... The convoy started on about a week ago, and it started across the country, so in Vancouver, and basically they're driving all the way across to Ottawa. And just so incredibly conveniently, there was a tiny little trucker protest. It started on the same day to protest dangerous conditions on BC highways. Just incredibly convenient. And so this was the article that was posted on the same day. There was no coverage for the actual Freedom Convoy. And this was done so that everybody who hears about a trucker convoy, trucker protest, goes online and searches, and they come up with this story from our lovely state-funded media. And then they conflate the two things. So this is completely farcical. And they did end up adding a little editor's note after. Oh, this isn't the separate convoy that's about protesting the vaccine mandates. So they do add that in. But the damage is already done here. And this is what comes up when people search for trucker protest on January 22nd. So that was their start. That's the start of the damage control. They're trying to hide it, and then they're trying to pretend that it's super small. So here we go. This is an article from the Washington Post, one of the few places that actually has any information about it. If you just search, it's hard to even find any news articles about the convoy because they're trying to hide it. I just wanted to bring this up because whoever wrote this article is just so incredibly delusional and brainwashed. It's pretty insane, and I can point it out in about 15 seconds. So here, opinion. Canada must confront the toxic Freedom Convoy head on. David Mosscrop. So here we go. This is the photo. This is a photo I actually started the video with. Freedom Convoy 2022. Hopefully everybody understands the definition of the word freedom, because that's kind of important to this. So let's just hop right down here. The movement shares an affinity with Trumpist, toxic, authoritarianist politics. Authoritarianist and freedom. These two things make no sense together. That is how brainwashed this person is. These people can't be helped. They will never be unbrainwashed from this stuff. Someone who can say that this movement is authoritarianist while being entirely about freedom. It makes absolutely no sense, but this is where we are. Okay, now I got another thing to show. This is from Snopes. There was a lot of info going around about how big the convoy would be. Some people were saying 50,000. Obviously, this is ridiculous. 50,000 trucks would be like over 1,000 kilometers long. But what I actually wanted to point out from this was, there's a couple things going on here. One is that they're trying to, obviously fact check some absurd statistics so that everyone then jumps to the conclusion that, it was actually tiny. It was a small protest, when 50,000 is just absurd. I believe it's going to be a few thousand trucks, which is still a ton. I think the longest convoy ever, the record right now, it was in Egypt, and it was like 480. So this is going to be way bigger than that, and that's the longest ever. And not to mention, in this particular instance, there are convoys that are converging. So they're not all coming from the same place. So there are multiple convoys with hundreds of trucks. But the other thing here that I find pretty disturbing is the second line here. The vast majority of truck drivers in Canada are vaccinated. What does that have to do with the fact check? How is that related to the claim? It's completely irrelevant. Why are they putting it in there? Because it's propaganda. Nothing but propaganda. Okay, so here we go. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau had some interesting words about the protest. Basically, well, here we go. Let's just get the full quote. I think I got the full quote here. Here's what he said. The small, fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa, who are holding unacceptable views that they are expressing, do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science and stepping up to protect each other is the best way to ensure our rights, our freedoms, our values as a country. So that was the full quote. This guy thinks it's appropriate to tell people what views are acceptable and what aren't. This guy wants to convict you of thought crime. That's what he wants. It's crazy. It's just, it's unbelievable. But this is where we are in Canada. This article by the National Post makes a great point. Unacceptable views. Are we in China now? Pretty much. I mean, that's what Justin Trudeau would like. But this quote, he says, best way to ensure our rights, our freedoms, our values as a country. And I find this comical, considering this is the same guy who says that Canada has no core identity. Here's a quote from him. There is no core identity, no mainstream in Canada. So, what values? What is he talking about? Canada has no core identity, no core values. That's what he said before, anyways. It doesn't even make sense. This guy. Calling views unacceptable. It's not the first time Trudeau has said something like that. I think a few months back he said this, although it only came to light relatively recently. I think in the last month. Basically, he called unvaccinated people racists and misogynists. And then he went on to paraphrase Hitler. So here's what he said. They don't believe in science, progress, and are very often misogynistic and racist. It's a very small group of people, but that doesn't shy away from the fact that they take up some space. This leads us as a leader and as a country to make a choice. Do we tolerate these people? This guy is paraphrasing Hitler. It's insane. It's unbelievable. This guy should not have gotten away with saying something like this. Asking a question as to whether you tolerate people who've made a personal choice. It's hard to even believe that this is actually happening. I read stuff like this and it leads me to believe that we're probably living in a simulation. I don't see how this could be a reality of any kind, but here we are. Now, back to the convoy. If you try to search for it, this is all you get. Almost nothing. One article by the New York Times. This one by the Washington Post that we covered earlier that's trying to just associate everyone with racists, basically. The GoFundMe, a little Wikipedia page, some Facebook stuff. Barely anything. You can hardly find this. Now, Trudeau called it a fringe minority. Doesn't really look like a fringe minority to me. Here's a picture from this morning, a few hours ago. Protest is just getting started, and here's where we are. This is really great to see. And so I got my PPC hat on today. This is the only leader who's actually here at the protests, who actually wants to end mandates. The only one. Well, I really hope that all these people, the truckers, the Patriots, I hope they stick it out. I hope they protest until Trudeau resigns. That would be the best thing that could happen for this country. Well, that's it from me. Hopefully you guys continue to follow this. Hopefully Canada is saved. That's it from the Canadian Dissident.